She mocked the janitor at her wedding. She had no idea he was about to flip her whole world upside down. The massive ballroom doors creaked open right as the priest asked, "Does anyone object to this marriage?" A tall man in a plain black suit stepped inside. Calm, steady, no hesitation, every guest turned. The room froze. Victoria Hale narrowed her eyes, then she laughed. It was him, Ethan Brooks, the janitor, the joke she invited. But the vibe in the room, yeah, it wasn't funny anymore. Before we continue, please tell us, where in the world are you tunning in from? And if you believe that stories of kindness, everyday miracles, and ordinary people deserve to be shared even further, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any journey like this one. 3 weeks earlier, Ethan pushed his cleaning cart through the executive floor of Hale Technologies. 40 floors up, glass walls, fancy offices, people making million-dollar decisions while he emptied trash and wiped tables. He didn't complain. The paycheck kept his 7-year-old son Tyler fed, clothed, and in school. That was the mission, period. Every morning, Ethan walked Tyler to the bus stop. Every night, he helped with homework at their tiny kitchen table. Tyler never asked why they lived in a small apartment or why his dad smelled like cleaning chemicals. He just trusted him, and Ethan would die before breaking that trust. Victoria Hale, on the other hand, she barely noticed people like him. She was a tech queen, self-made, ruthless. Her heels clicked across floors Ethan had polished hours earlier. She knew investors, CEOs, politicians, but the janitor who cleaned her office, nah, invisible. One afternoon, she was in the executive lounge planning her wedding. Grand Belmont Hotel. Insane price tag. Elite guest list. Everything had to scream luxury. Ethan walked in to take out the trash. Quiet. Invisible. Then Derek, one of her managers, smirked and said, "Hey, why not invite the cleaning crew? Add some real people flavor." Everyone laughed. Victoria tilted her head, amused. Then she called out to Ethan, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Hey, you want to come to my wedding?" The room went silent. Ethan stopped, looked at her, calm. No reaction. She kept going, making it a whole performance, talking about diversity, real people, how it would be cute. Derek laughed harder. Sharon covered her mouth but looked entertained. Ethan just said, "I'd be honored." No anger. No embarrassment, just polite. That threw Victoria off. She expected him to feel small. Instead, he just nodded and went back to work. After he left, Derek whispered, "Dude probably thinks it's legit." Victoria shrugged. "It'll be hilarious watching him show up in some cheap suit." And just like that, she forgot about him. But Ethan didn't. That night, he sat with Tyler, helping him read a book about astronauts. Tyler noticed his dad zoning out. "You okay, Dad?" "Yeah, buddy, all good." But Ethan was thinking, if he ignored that invitation, what would Tyler learn? That when rich people mock you, you disappear. Nah, that wasn't the lesson he wanted his kid growing up with. So he started saving, skipped lunches, took extra shifts. 3 weeks later, he bought a second-hand suit, clean, sharp, simple. Tyler asked what it was for. "Special occasion," Ethan said. He didn't tell him which one. On the wedding day, Ethan dropped Tyler at the neighbor's place, took 2 buses and walked to the Grand Belmont. Fancy cars everywhere, guests in designer clothes, total high society vibe. He straightened his tie. "This ain't about them," he whispered. "This is about you, Tyler." Then he walked inside, right at the worst or perfect moment. Victoria thought the janitor came to be embarrassed, but when he sat down and looked straight at her, she felt something she hadn't felt in years: fear. The moment Ethan sat down in the back row, the entire vibe in the room changed. Whispers spread like static. "Who's that guy? Did someone crash the wedding? Why did he walk in during the objection part?" Victoria stood frozen at the altar. She recognized him instantly. The janitor. The joke invite. the nobody who wasn't supposed to actually show up. For half a second, panic flickered across her face. Then she forced a laugh, sharp, fake, performative. Like, nah, this is fine, everything's under control energy. Marcus, her groom, leaned in and whispered, "Do you know him?" She smiled and whispered back, "Relax, it's nothing." The priest hesitated, confused by the tension, then continued the ceremony. But nobody was listening anymore. Eyes kept drifting to the back row. Ethan sat straight, calm, hands folded, no phone, no nervous energy, no awkwardness, like he belonged there. That's what messed people up. Victoria tried to focus on the vows, but her mind kept spinning. Why is he so calm? Why isn't he embarrassed? Why isn't he acting like the joke I made him? When the ceremony ended, applause filled the room, but it felt forced, hollow. The kind of clapping people do when they're uncomfortable. As the guests moved into the reception hall, Victoria whispered to Derek, "Handle it." Derek smirked and grabbed a champagne glass like he was about to enjoy a show. The reception ballroom was massive: crystal chandeliers, gold accents, imported flowers, violin music, rich people vibes everywhere. Ethan stood near the entrance, taking it all in quietly. That's when Derek walked up. "Bro," he laughed, scanning him up and down, "you lost or something?" Ethan looked at him calmly. "I'm a guest." Derek chuckled. "No, I mean seriously, what are you doing here?" "I was invited." Derek squinted, trying to decide if Ethan was stupid or playing dumb. Then Sharon joined them, eyeing Ethan's suit. "Where'd you get that?" she asked. "Thrift shop downtown." Her smile tightened. Oh, that fake rich people smile, the judgment kind. Then Victoria arrived. She didn't walk, she performed. Big smile. Loud voice, public energy. "Ethan, oh my God, you actually came." Heads turned. Conversations paused. Attention locked in. She said it like he was a charity project. "How are you enjoying the wedding?" she asked, fake sweet. "It's beautiful," Ethan said simply. She laughed. "I was worried you'd feel out of place, but hey, you found something to wear, that's impressive." A few guests chuckled. Derek smirked. Victoria leaned in a little. "Did you borrow the suit or is it yours?" "I bought it." "Oh wow," she said, dramatic. "That must have taken a while to save for." The disrespect was subtle but sharp, like a blade wrapped in silk. People started shifting uncomfortably. Then an older man stepped forward. Gray hair, calm presence, authority energy. Robert Langford, one of Victoria's earliest investors. "Victoria," he said slowly, "do you know this man?" "Of course," she smiled. "He's one of our janitors." Like that explained everything. Robert turned to Ethan and extended his hand. "I'm Robert." "Ethan." They shook hands. Robert looked back at Victoria. "Did you invite him as a guest or as entertainment?" The room went dead silent. Victoria laughed nervously. "You're taking it too seriously." Robert's voice stayed calm. "No, I'm taking it exactly seriously enough." People started paying attention now. Real attention. Victoria felt it, the shift, the power sliding, the control slipping. And Ethan, he still didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't react. Just stood there, steady, like the calm before a storm. Just when Victoria thought she could laugh it off, Ethan opens his mouth, and the entire ballroom turns against her. The room felt heavier with every second of silence. Victoria hated silence. Silence meant she wasn't in control. She crossed her arms, forcing a confident smile. "Come on, guys, it was just a joke. Lighten up. It's my wedding." Robert didn't smile back. Humor that punches down isn't humor, it's insecurity in a tux. A few guests chuckled, not with Victoria, at her. That stung. She turned to Ethan, voice suddenly sharp. "So what's this about? You here to make a scene?" Ethan met her gaze, calm, steady, no anger. "I'm here because you invited me." Simple, clean, no drama. Patricia Green, a venture capitalist who helped fund Victoria's early growth, stepped closer. "Did you really invite him as a joke?" Victoria rolled her eyes. You people are acting like I committed a crime. He said yes. He's here. End of story. Ethan finally spoke again, and his voice was quiet, but it cut through the room. She's right, I knew it was a joke. Everyone froze. Victoria blinked, confused. Wait, what? He continued. I knew you didn't expect me to show up. I knew you thought I'd be embarrassed. Now every guest was locked in. Ethan didn't raise his voice. He didn't get dramatic, that made it worse for her. I came anyway, he said, because I have a son. Robert nodded slightly, listening. He's 7, smart kid. Always asking why some people have everything and others don't. Victoria felt the room lean toward him. He's gonna grow up in a world where people judge him before he speaks, before they know him, before he even gets a chance. He looked straight at Victoria, and I wanted him to know his dad didn't back down. The silence was brutal. Patricia set her champagne down slowly. That's respectable, Victoria scoffed. So what, this is some motivational speech? Ethan shook his head. No, it's just the truth. Robert stepped forward again. I started in a factory, worked next to janitors, welders, cleaners. You don't get to the top by forgetting who keeps the place running. He turned to Victoria. You used your wedding to embarrass someone who works for you. That's not power. That's petty. Derek tried to jump in. Guys, you're blowing this way out of proportion. Patricia snapped back. Would you want someone treating your kid like that? Derek went quiet real fast. Guests started whispering again, this time not confused but judging. Ethan added softly, I didn't come to ruin your wedding. I came to show my kid that dignity doesn't depend on money. Victoria felt her smile crack. This wasn't supposed to happen. She invited him to be the joke. Now she was the punchline. She tried to regain control. So what, you want an apology, a check, a promotion? Ethan shook his head. I don't want anything from you. That hurt worse. Robert exhaled slowly. Victoria, this is who people see when they look past the headlines. Patricia crossed her arms. And investors don't like leaders who humiliate their own staff. That word, investors, hit like a gut punch. Some guests started leaving their tables. 2 people walked straight toward the exit. Marcus, her groom, finally spoke. Vic, maybe we should take this private. She didn't answer. She was staring at Ethan. And for the first time in her career, she realized. She wasn't in control of the room. He was. And he wasn't even trying. As guests started walking out, Victoria realized her wedding wasn't the only thing falling apart. Her business, her reputation, and her marriage were all on the line. The first couple didn't even try to hide it. They stood up, grabbed their coats, walked straight toward the exit. No goodbyes, no hugs, no congrats, just quiet judgment. Then another investor followed. Then another. Victoria watched it happen in slow motion, her jaw tightening. This can't be real. She spent years building these relationships, hosting dinners, playing the perfect CEO. Now in under 5 minutes she was watching them ghost her on her own wedding day. Marcus leaned closer. Baby, this is getting ugly, she whispered through clenched teeth. They're overreacting. But she didn't believe that anymore. Robert shook his head, disappointment written all over his face. I thought you were different, Victoria. Guess I was wrong. That sentence hit harder than any insult. Patricia added quietly, people follow leaders they respect, not leaders who treat people like props. The word props burned. Derek suddenly looked nervous. Sharon avoided eye contact. People who were laughing with her earlier now acted like they didn't know her. Classic rich people survival mode. Ethan stood there, hands in his pockets, calm as ever. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't celebrating. He was just there. And somehow that was destroying her. Victoria tried to salvage the moment. She clapped her hands and forced a laugh. All right, let's not ruin the vibe. This is my wedding. Let's drink, dance, have fun. Nobody moved. The band had stopped playing. Waiters froze. Conversations didn't restart. The vibe was dead. Marcus sighed. Victoria, maybe we should step away for a sec. She shook her head. No, they need to hear this. She turned to the remaining guests, voice trembling just a little. This was misunderstood. I respect all my employees. Ethan was invited because I value everyone in my company. The words sounded fake even to her. Ethan tilted his head slightly. You invited me to laugh at me. Boom. The room went colder. She snapped. So what? People joke. Grow thicker skin. Ethan didn't raise his voice. My son is 7. He shouldn't have to grow thick skin just to exist. That line wrecked the room. Robert muttered, damn. Patricia crossed her arms. This isn't about humor. This is about character. More guests quietly walked out. Victoria's wedding planner approached, whispering, Do you want us to continue dinner service? Victoria stared at the half-empty ballroom. Cancel everything. Her voice sounded hollow. Marcus touched her arm again. Let's go upstairs, we can talk. She pulled away. She didn't want comfort. She wanted control, but control was gone. She looked around at the decorations, the expensive flowers, the untouched champagne. All of it suddenly felt fake. Her empire, her reputation, was built on people believing she was brilliant, inspiring, unstoppable. Now they saw something else, small, arrogant, mean, and she knew it. Ethan finally spoke again, softer now. I didn't come here to destroy you, she laughed bitterly. Sure feels like it. I came to show my kid that you don't need money to have self-respect. That word again. Respect. She realized she had everything except that. Just when Victoria thought it couldn't get worse, Ethan reveals why he really showed up, and it makes her question everything about herself. The ballroom was almost empty now. Half the guests were gone. The band had packed up. The champagne sat untouched, like a symbol of everything that went wrong. Victoria stood in the middle of the chaos she created, gripping the edge of a table like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Ethan was still there, still calm, still steady, still impossible to shake. She looked at him, frustration bubbling over. So why really show up? She snapped. You could have stayed home. You knew this would blow up. Ethan took a breath. My kid asked me something last week. That got her attention. He asked why some people think they're better than others just because they got money. The words landed heavy. I didn't know how to explain it, so I figured I'd show him instead. Victoria swallowed. He's gonna grow up. He's gonna meet people like you, bosses, teachers, kids at school, people who think his worth is tied to his bank account. He looked straight at her. And I wanted him to know his dad didn't bow down. The room felt smaller. Marcus stepped forward, finally speaking up. I respect that, he said. Victoria spun on him. You respect this, he nodded slowly. I respect courage. And honestly, what you did was messed up. That felt like a slap. She stared at her new husband. You're siding with him. I'm siding with what's right. Her jaw clenched. I didn't marry you to get lectured on my wedding day. Marcus sighed. I didn't marry you to watch you humiliate someone who works for you. Silence again. Ethan looked at Marcus, then back at Victoria. I'm not your enemy. I don't want your job, your money, your apology. She laughed bitterly. Then what do you want? Nothing. That word haunted her. I just wanted to prove something to myself and to my son. She folded her arms. Prove what? That I don't have to be ashamed of who I am. That hit deeper than any insult. She had spent her whole life trying not to be ashamed of where she came from, climbing, crushing, winning, making sure nobody ever looked down on her again. And now, she was the one looking down on others. He continued, my son wears hand-me-down clothes, lives in a small apartment, takes the bus to school, but he's got more heart than half the people in this room. She didn't respond. She couldn't. Marcus stepped closer to her. You need to apologize, she laughed, but it sounded shaky. For what? Inviting him. For treating him like a punchline. She looked at Ethan. He wasn't demanding anything. He wasn't even asking for an apology. That somehow made it worse. Ethan shrugged slightly. You don't owe me anything. Just remember this moment next time you think someone's beneath you. That line hit like a mic drop. Victoria felt something inside her crack. Not her pride, her certainty. She had always believed she was the smartest person in the room, the strongest, the most untouchable. But standing there in her wedding dress with half the room gone and her husband calling her out, she felt exposed, small, human, and she hated it. Ethan was about to walk away for good, but before he left, he said one sentence that completely destroyed Victoria's ego and changed her life forever. The silence stretched so long it felt painful. No music, no chatter, just the echo of Ethan's words hanging in the air. Then someone in the back started clapping. Slow, hesitant, soft. Victoria turned around. A middle-aged woman in a navy dress was clapping, eyes locked on Ethan, not her. Then another person joined. Then another. Within seconds, a dozen guests were clapping. Not loud, not cheering, just steady, respectful applause for him. Not for the bride, not for the billionaire CEO, for the janitor. Victoria felt like she got punched in the chest. Her wedding was supposed to be her victory lap. Instead, it turned into Ethan Brooks' moment. Ethan looked surprised. He didn't bow, didn't smile. He just nodded once like he wasn't sure what to do with that kind of respect. Then he turned toward the exit. He wasn't storming out. He wasn't running. He walked like a man who had already won. Guests stepped aside to let him pass. Some nodded, some whispered, some just watched him like he was the real guest of honor. At the door he stopped, turned around, looked straight at Victoria. No anger, no revenge smile, just calm. I hope you remember this, he said quietly. Not for me, for the next person you think doesn't matter. Then he walked out. The doors closed with a soft click, but it sounded louder than the applause. The room froze. Marcus exhaled slowly like he'd been holding his breath the whole time. That man just taught everyone here a lesson, he muttered. Victoria didn't answer. She stared at the closed doors. She had invited Ethan to be the joke. Now everyone saw her as the joke. The applause faded. People started leaving again, this time without even pretending to care. The wedding planner approached her again. Should we cut the cake? Victoria laughed, short and empty. There's no point. Within 20 minutes the ballroom was almost empty. The flowers still looked perfect. The tables were still set. The champagne was still cold. But the celebration was dead. Marcus touched her shoulder. I'm going upstairs. If you want to talk, I'll be there. She nodded but didn't move. He walked away. And for the first time in her life, Victoria Hale stood completely alone in a room full of luxury. She walked to a table and sat down slowly, her wedding dress spreading around her like a white puddle of wasted money. She picked up a glass of champagne, staring at the bubbles. This was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. Instead, she felt hollow. She had built a tech empire, closed billion-dollar deals, been on magazine covers, but none of that saved her from one quiet man in a thrift store suit. She thought about what Ethan said. Dignity doesn't depend on money. For the first time, she wondered if all her success was just armor, and if under that armor she was nothing. Victoria thought the story ended when Ethan walked out, but what happened the next morning shocked her even more. Her investors, her company, and her marriage were all about to change. Victoria barely slept. Her wedding dress still hung over a chair in the hotel suite. Marcus slept on the couch. They hadn't spoken since he walked out of the ballroom. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Emails, messages, missed calls, investors, board members, journalists. She opened her laptop with shaky hands. Subject, we need to talk. Urgent. Subject, concern regarding leadership conduct. Subject, reputational risk assessment. Her chest tightened. The video had already leaked. Some guest had recorded the confrontation. Someone posted it online. It was trending, Clips of Ethan speaking, clips of guests walking out, clips of people clapping for him. The comments were brutal. That janitor humbled her real quick. Money can't buy class. Imagine humiliating someone and getting humbled at your own wedding. Victoria stared at the screen, her face pale. She had survived scandals before, failed product launches, lawsuits, corporate drama, but this felt different. This wasn't about business. This was about character. Marcus walked in, rubbing his eyes. "You seen the news?" he asked quietly. She nodded. "The board called," he said. "They want a meeting. Emergency." Her stomach dropped. "About what?" "About you." The board meeting from hell later that day, Victoria sat in a glass conference room with 12 board members staring at her through a video call. Robert was there, Patricia too. The vibe was cold. "This isn't about one joke," Robert said. "This is about leadership culture." Patricia added, "Employees are speaking up. Former employees too. Stories are coming out." Victoria felt sick. Stories. She had no idea there were stories. "The market doesn't trust leaders who humiliate their staff," another board member said. "Our stock dipped this morning." That hit like a punch. "This is becoming a PR disaster," Patricia said. "We need assurance this won't happen again." Victoria swallowed. "What do you want from me?" Robert said it calmly. "Public apology, internal reforms, leadership training." And he hesitated. "And what?" she asked. "We're considering appointing a co-CEO." Her mind went blank. She built this company. Her name was on the building. And now they were threatening to sideline her. Meanwhile, Ethan across town, Ethan was making pancakes for Tyler like nothing happened. Tyler watched the viral clip on his tablet. "Dad, that's you," he said. "Yeah," Ethan replied. "You weren't scared?" Ethan smiled. "Yeah, I was, but I still showed up." Tyler nodded like he understood something important, and for Ethan that was the real win. She stood in her office staring out at the city. She had everything, but she felt smaller than Ethan ever did. She remembered his words. "I hope you remember this." She did, and she knew part 8 was coming whether she liked it or not. Victoria finally decides to meet Ethan again, but what she says to him, and what he says back, changes both of them forever. A week later, Victoria stood outside a small apartment building that smelled like cleaning detergent and fried food. This place was nothing like her penthouse. And yet, she felt more nervous here than in any boardroom. She knocked. Ethan opened the door wearing a simple hoodie. Tyler peeked from behind him. "Hi," Victoria said, awkward. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "You lost," she swallowed. "No, I wanted to talk." He hesitated, then stepped aside. The apartment was tiny. Toys on the floor, books on the table, a kid's backpack on a chair. No luxury, no ego, just life. Tyler stared at her. "Dad, is she the wedding lady?" Ethan smiled. "Yeah, bud." Tyler nodded seriously. "You were mean." Victoria froze. "Kids don't sugarcoat." She crouched down. I'm sorry," Tyler shrugged. "It's okay. My dad's cool." That line hit harder than any board meeting. Ethan leaned against the wall. "So why are you here?" She exhaled slowly. "I lost investors. Board wants a co-CEO. My reputation's trash." He nodded. "Yeah, that tracks." She laughed softly, embarrassed. "I deserved it." Silence. "I spent my whole life proving I'm better than everyone," she continued. "And one moment showed I wasn't." Ethan folded his arms. "So what now?" "I don't know," she admitted. "But I didn't want that moment to define me." He looked at her for a long second. "Then don't let it," he said. "Just treat people like humans, not props." She nodded. "Also," he added, smirking, "don't invite janitors to weddings as a joke. That backfires." She laughed for real this time. Before leaving, she turned to Tyler. "Your dad taught me something important." Tyler smiled proudly. "He teaches me stuff every day." 6 months later, Victoria launched a company-wide culture reform program. She gave speeches about leadership, humility, and respect. People didn't forget what happened, but some believed she changed. Ethan kept cleaning floors, kept walking Tyler to school, kept living his life. He didn't become rich, he didn't become famous, but he became something better. A man who walked into a billionaire's world and walked out without bowing. Moral money can buy power, but dignity, that's earned.